Welcome to the Divine Farmer Health Podcast. And my name is Jimmy Yen, the Acu Sensei. And we've got Chris McKee, the nutritionist. And every week we're coming to you, bringing you information about how to take control of your own health and do it. What can you do at home? All right. What are the foundation things that you can do at home before you actually seek help? What are the things that you do? So welcome to the show, everybody. Good morning, Chris.
Yeah, welcome. Yeah. So today our topic is fasting, intermittent fasting, and something called the fasting mimicking diet. So this is a big topic, and we're going to have some fun with this one because there's some amazing research with this. And I want to start with just helping us to remember that fasting has been part of cultures for thousands of years. That if you even go back to the Paleolithic, Neolithic era, they didn't fast because they wanted to, probably, but because there was shortage of food or there was a drought or something like that, right? So physiologically, our bodies have always done this. But then if you look at cultures, let's say the Hindu culture has always fasted, the Muslim culture, the Christian culture, a lot of the religious cultures have fasting in their practices, and those have been around for thousands of years. They probably didn't know the physiological benefit of fasting. A lot of it was done for spiritual reasons, which is still awesome. But fasting's been around a really long time. We have become so used to having 24-hour food. We rarely have, very, very rarely here in the United States, Canada, Australia, the countries that are pretty well developed, they don't run out of food. So we are pretty well attached to our food. We like our food. So fasting sometimes freaks people out a little bit. We'll talk about that a little bit. But I wanted to quote some research by Dr. Bartel Longo. And this is the longevity diet. Let's see if we can see that. There we go. Longevity diet. And he is the preeminent researcher on fasting. He started his doctoral studies and did his thesis on fasting in 1992. So UCLA School of Medicine. And that was a long time ago. So we got like 3 decades of research that he's done. And it's interesting reading in his book because he said he was coming out with this research and sharing it with colleagues, and they looked at him like he'd lost his mind, right? Like, oh yeah, right. Fasting, can't do all those things. So he really had a challenge early on, but now there is actually a UCLA Center for Longevity because of his research. So that's pretty powerful. And I wanted to just read to you some of the things that he has as pillars for longevity, because I think these are great principles that any of us can use in our daily life to live longer, healthier lives. And I think we all want to live a long time, but we want to be healthy, right? We don't want to live a long time and be in a wheelchair or something like that. So the pillars of longevity, these are just some of them. His first one is a pescatarian diet. So that would be fish as your primary protein, unless you're over the age of 60. And then he does talk about adding in more protein because we have muscle loss as we age. So a pescatarian diet is fish as your protein. You've got legumes, you've got fruits, you have vegetables, you have nuts, you have seeds, you have all those beautiful foods, right? So that's a pescatarian diet. And then he talks about consuming a sufficient amount of protein, but not too much protein. Okay. So why not, too much protein? Like, for instance, he wouldn't be a fan of carnivore diet. Because it turns on something called the mTOR pathway, which is a growth pathway, which can accelerate cell growth, which we know, for instance, cancer is a unregulated cell growth. So that's why not too much protein, but sufficient protein to maintain muscle mass, right? We don't want to lose muscle mass. He focuses on minimizing bad fats. Okay, so those would be like your vegetable oils, like corn oil, soybean oil, canola oil, those things, minimizing those, minimizing sugar, like straight sugar. We have a lot of that in this country, sodas and sweets and things, and maximizing good fats. So that would be your olive oil, right? Your coconut oil, some of those types of grass-fed butter. We talked about that last week from happy cows. And also carbohydrates from complex carbs, like your plant carbs, the beans, fruit, vegetables, all of those things. Eat a variety of food I talk about this a lot with my clients because I do intake with my clients. They'll do a 5-day diet diary, and you'll often find people who eat the same thing, especially for breakfast and lunch. Often it's the same thing over and over. So eat a variety of food, eat seasonally the best you can. So you wouldn't want to be eating peaches in December in the United States because they're coming from somewhere else, right? And then the other one I thought was really interesting, you talk about eating ancestrally. So this would be apply to you, Jimmy, right?
Mhm.
You're 100% Taiwanese, right?
Mhm.
Chinese, basically.
Yeah.
So eat as your ancestors ate. For you, the healthiest diet would be what your ancestors eat, because you genetically, you don't have the hodgepodge like I do of genetics. A lot of people in the United States have a hodgepodge, but if you know, let's say you're half Norwegian, I'm 1/4 Norwegian. So I know my great grandparents came here from Norway. So I know they ate a lot of fish in Norway, and I actually love fish. So eating
Yeah.
ancestrally is kind of cool. Like if I were to work with a client that was, let's say, Japanese, and they were struggling with health issues, I would point them back at that diet, ancestral diet. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then his final one is eat 2 times a day and have a snack. So that's your intermittent fasting, right? Which we'll dive into a little bit. So today, for instance, I haven't eaten yet. I ate last night at 6. I haven't eaten this morning. It's 10 o'clock. I'll eat when we get done. And that will be actually a big, fairly large meal. It'll be lunch, kind of lunch thing. And then I'll eat maybe a snack in the afternoon because I exercise today. And usually when I exercise, I feel like eating a little more, and then dinner. So that would be an example of eating twice a day. So those are
So
his
Chris,
foods.
let
Yeah,
me we've got a
yeah,
question. So
sure.
when you talked about the protein, Robin
Yeah,
is asking, does he mention actual measurements of protein? Like what is the
yes.
recommended?
Yes. So he mentions 0.31 to 0.36 grams per pound of body weight. That is if you're under the age of 60.
You said 0.31. Okay.
0.31 to 0.36. 36 would, I
6.
would think the higher one would be for men. Typically men have more muscle mass than women.
So
Then
0.31 to 0.36 grams of
grams
protein per
per
pound.
pound of body weight, right?
Okay.
So let's say 100,
So like
let's say easily, right? 100 pound
100, yeah.
person, 36 grams, would be the high end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, great question.
Actually, uh, that was that book. What you just said is very similar to another book that I've read.
Mhm.
It's written by this gastroenterologist surgeon. Um, I'll go grab it really quick later. But it's called the enzyme factor,
Ah,
and they pretty much he said very similar thing as this longevity diet, and
uh-huh,
less protein, because here in the U.S. we eat tons of protein. We're taught, we're taught that, oh, because I mean obviously protein, we need those amino acids to build
right.
everything, but we overdo it here. But what he was saying in that book was not from a, just to keep it very simple. When you eat too much protein, protein has to be processed one through your liver and then through your kidneys. And so when you eat too much protein, you overwhelm your liver. And your liver is one of the most important organs in your body. They're all important, but the liver is vitally important because it's your main detox organ. And
Yeah,
the last thing you want to do is overload it, is to give it too much work. Just like us, if we are working, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, our body's we're gonna die, right? We're gonna be cranky, frustrated, angry, tired, moody, all those things, right? Well,
yeah,
imagine if you do that to your liver. If you overwork your liver, you're giving it a function like it is supposed to process your protein, but it's not supposed to spend the whole day just processing your protein. It's got a million other functions it has to do. And so
yeah,
when you input too much protein, you're overloading your liver, which causes liver problems, and your kidneys. And so they found like the Atkins diet. I forgot where I saw the research, but the people who did the Atkins diet for an extended period of time, like years, they
yeah,
saw, liver enzymes go up, which is liver damage. They saw their liver get damaged, their kidneys that get damaged. And so that's, we have to be careful about following, what's the I would say the popular diet at the
yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
because those diets aren't focused on restoring health. They're focused on weight loss, fast weight loss, and it does. You lose
Yeah.
weight fast. You know, the
Yeah.
Atkins diet, you lose weight fast, but it's not a healthy way of losing weight. You know, not long term. So I just want to throw that in because that book is saying the similar things to what this book is saying too.
Yeah, yeah, and I totally agree with the, diet ideologies, we go from one to the next to the next to the next. So definitely, so yeah, so that's great question. I want to share with you the benefits that he saw in his clinical trials with something called fasting mimicking diet. So through these 3 decades of testing people with fasting, he determined that the average person probably wouldn't fast. Again, they have a lot of resistance to not having any food. So he developed what he calls a fasting mimicking diet. Now, he does have a product that he developed so people can make it really easy. But what a fasting mimicking diet is it's 5 days of 500 calories for 5 days. The same benefits were seen in the 5 days of 500 calories per day as someone doing a 3-day water fast. So that's pretty powerful, right? So the defining clinical trial was a 100 subject clinical trial in doing this, and they did it over a period of 3 months. And what they did is they did 5 days a month for 3 months. So they did the fasting maybe 5 times, 5 days a month for 3 months. And these are the benefits that they saw. And I'll just rattle these off and then you can ask me questions, okay? So weight loss on average, every time they did it was 8 pounds. They actually saw an increase in muscle mass, which I found was interesting with lower caloric intake. They saw a decrease of 12 milligrams deciliters of fasting glucose. So the fasting glucose went down, which is great. Reduced blood pressure, reduced cholesterol by 20 points, reduced something called insulin-like growth factor, which is when we have high insulin-like growth factor, we have a higher rate of cancer risk. They saw a decrease in C-reactive protein, which you can get that in your labs, and you'll see that as C-reactive protein is an inflammation marker on labs. Triglycerides went down by 25 points. Then the primary place for fat loss, if someone needed to lose fat, was abdominal area, which is great. And then something called autophagy. So I want to dive into that a little bit more, but something called autophagy increased. So we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into fasting, but those were all the benefits that they saw in someone doing it 5 days a month for 3 months. Now he recommends in his longevity book, the average person just do it twice a year for 5 days, and you'll still see some of these benefits, not as many, but still see benefits. So I thought that was pretty profound, that you could still get benefits even doing it just twice a year. So did we have any questions on that?
Not yet, but I do want to put a disclaimer that we're sharing this information. We're not telling you to go do this by yourself.
Yeah.
If you have a lot of serious medical conditions or a lot of medical conditions, disclaimer, we are not physicians. You need to talk to your family doctor in regards to them monitoring you doing this, okay? We're just giving you the information so that you can have information to go talk to your doctor. And after you talk to your doctor, then you can work with someone like us, right? I just want to make that. So before you go into a 500-calorie diet, which is a very low calorie diet, you need to first talk to your physician. Just want to put that in there.
Yeah. I see we have some questions on fatty liver. What if you have non-alcoholic fatty liver? Non-alcoholic fatty liver, and see if you agree with me, Jimmy, is caused by sugar. That is a sugar problem. We see a lot of that now because we see so many people running with high glucose numbers, pre-diabetics and stuff, but that is a sugar issue. It is reversible, very much so with diet. So that is not protein, that's sugar. Okay, just want to touch on that.
I can explain a little bit about non-alcoholic fatty liver. So what's happening in your body when you eat sugar, right? When you eat sugar, everybody thinks about, okay, the pancreas is the only thing that secretes insulin. That's the only organ that's helping regulating your sugar. No, it's not. Actually, it's the pancreas and your liver. These are the two main organs that help regulate your sugar. So the pancreas secretes insulin, which basically supposed to, move the sugar from your blood into your cells. Okay, that's what the pancreas does. Now, if that doesn't happen effectively, what's going to happen is your liver comes in and helps. So what does your liver do? Your liver is actually going to take that excess sugar into and from the bloodstream and turn it and store it. Actually store it in itself, in the liver itself, and store it as fat. And that's why you're going to have the non-alcoholic fatty liver, right? So if you imagine, if you just look at your, for those of y'all, or maybe you've seen someone, they just eat donuts every day, look at their belly. Does it get smaller or does it get bigger, like a little pooch, right? Because they're accumulating fat. So literally, just imagine that your liver is doing the same thing. It's accumulating a little beer belly, a little pooch belly on the liver. And then when they do an ultrasound, they see, oh, there's that little pooch on your liver. That's called fatty liver.
Yep. And Vanessa says, I cut out all sugar, only stevia for years now. Well, that's good. Stevia, I still caution people on stevia, artificial sweeteners, but stevia being something that still tells your body that it's super sweet. Stevia is very sweet. It's 100 times sweeter than sugar. So you're still signaling to your body that you're getting it's shown to actually elevate blood glucose as well. So I always encourage people to wean off of stevia as well. And just honestly, go down to fruit. Fruit being your only sugar, complex plant carbohydrates. So your vegetables being complex plant carbohydrates. Try to get off of these super sweet sweeteners. And you can switch from stevia, maybe move down to monk fruit. Monk fruit's a good choice. It's a lot less sweet than stevia. So a lot of times people want to put that in your coffee or something like that. Try to get yourself off of these things because it still triggers your body to produce glucose. Your body still thinks it's sugar and your brain still thinks it's sugar. So I definitely encourage people to move away even from stevia if at all possible. So let's talk about intermittent fasting. And then I'm going to talk about fasting for a minute, but let's talk about intermittent fasting, because one of the things that he did talk about it in the book here. You're not going to get the same benefits as doing a fast, right, with intermittent fast, but over a period of time, like he talks about eating 2 times a day, right, for longevity, over a period of time, yes, you're going to see some of these benefits, weight loss and cholesterol and triglyceride. Some of these things are going to start coming down. They're going to happen as fast. They're not going to happen as fast as a fast. Fast as a fast. But what happens during intermittent fasting, let's say like for me, I ate last night at 6, I haven't eaten yet this morning, right? I've gone 16 hours. So what happens in the body is something called autophagy. And autophagy is a Greek word for self-eating. Sounds disgusting. But what happens in the cell, and there was a Nobel Prize in science awarded, I think in 2017 for the research on autophagy. Is pretty profound. So isn't it amazing that we're still finding new things that are happening inside the cell? It just amazes me. And so what they discovered is when you don't eat for, let's say 16 hours like me, and even overnight, if you go 12 hours, the body has a cleanup crew that comes into the cell. You have garbage men come in and they clean up the garbage because metabolism, energy, creates waste. So you think about your car, right? You put gasoline in it, you run the engine, it has an exhaust pipe for a reason, because there's going to be exhaust coming out that's toxic. Same with your cells. You produce energy, it creates waste. So the garbage men come in, they clean up all that. And then you have the recyclers come in and they take some of what's been created by energy, which is protein particles, and they go in and they recycle that and they make new mitochondria. We've been talking about mitochondria the last 2 weeks, right? It's your little battery of your body. So these recycler guys go in there and they make new mitochondria. How cool is that? So this is going on when you're doing intermittent fasting, when you're doing the fasting mimicking diet, when you're fasting, all of this is going on. So this is rejuvenation at the cellular level. To me, that's super powerful, super powerful. So that is intermittent fasting. Let's talk about how you do it. you can do what we recommend. A minimum is 12. Most people do 12 hours, right? If they eat, let's say they ate dinner at 6 and then 6 hours later, 12 hours later, 6 in the morning. Most people aren't eating at 6 in the morning, but maybe if you get up early. So that's 12 hours. 14 hours would be 8 in the morning. 16 hours would be 10 in the morning if you ate at 6 at night. So the research shows that 16 hours is the most benefit. So that's where that window of time, like I did this morning, comes in. And you might be saying, well, what if I'm hungry? Well, if you're a what we call a sugar burner, somebody who's so used to eating carbohydrates, you're not going to feel very good initially, right? Because your body's looking for sugar. It's wanting you to put something in your mouth. It's not wanting to go do the work of finding that sugar you were talking about, Jimmy, in the liver and in the muscle. If there's sugar stored, it can find it. You just need to switch the body from a sugar burner to a fat burner. It needs to do that. And you can do that gradually, moving yourself up to a longer window of time. Pretty soon your body figures this out. Now, I will caution those who are diabetics, because they have to really watch their blood sugars. They could get really too low. But we have had diabetics in our groups that we've run, and they start intermittent fasting and they start to gradually move themselves a little longer, and they do really well, and they start to see their fasting glucoses coming down. And so they can drop their insulin down. So we've seen some great results with this. So, but be cautious. And again, like Jimmy said, you might want to let your primary care doctor know you're going to be doing this. And I'm going to challenge myself with this. And then if you will work with me on my insulin dosages, or maybe metformin, maybe you're pre-diabetic, but try it.
Yeah. Let me
Try
add
it.
one thing about
Yeah.
so we've actually had, Chris and I at Divine Farmer Health, we have a lot of online programs that help you set the foundation. And just setting that foundation, a lot of the diabetics that have gone through our foundational programs, this is not even a
Yeah.
diabetes program, this is a
Right.
foundational program, so powerful. They have been able, their blood sugar has dropped, I would say consistently and very quickly, but you have to be careful. Again, you have to talk to your physician, but I'm just letting you know the results. Their blood sugar has dropped. They've used less medication. One person I remember in our who did our jump start, she was on insulin. She got off of insulin, but
Yeah.
so it's very possible to do that. Again, work with your physician, and when you just make these minor tweaks. I like to say, in life, if you look at your, small hinges swing big doors. So what
Yeah.
that means is little tweaks that you make in your lifestyle can make a big impact. Like, and we're just using diabetes for one, because I would say a lot of the diabetics who join our programs, when they just make these one or two, just like fasting, right? Intermittent fasting. It's not
Yeah.
even pure, whole day fasting, just intermittent fasting, their blood sugars start to come down, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's just the power of just making small tweaks. You don't have to make huge tweaks to restore your health. It's these small ones day by day that make the biggest impact.
Yeah. And so one of the questions I often get asked is, can I do it every day? And so Dr. Longo, Walter Longo, yes. I mean, for him, it's, you're eating eating 2 meals a day. There's been some recent research, and of course, I always say research depends on who did the research, and it can be very confusing. But there's been some recent research that for women cycling, menstrual, still actively cycling women, that it may not be a good idea to do it every single day, especially if you're trying to get pregnant. So I think that you can still get some huge benefits, maybe doing it 3 or 4 days a week. And so there are some people that do it every day and they do great. I don't do it every day. I probably do it 3 or 4 times a week. And so it's
What
just, yeah,
what I've noticed is, in our clinic, we don't recommend people doing it every single day for an extended time. Maybe
yeah,
for a week or two, they can do it every single day. And the reason is, our bodies are very resilient, right? What does that mean? That means they adapt.
yep,
So if you change your whole lifestyle to only eating 2 meals a day, you'll see the benefits in the first 2 weeks, maybe the first month. Now, let's say you want to lose weight. And however, what's going to happen is you're going to start noticing that you stop losing weight. So you're going to lose weight when you first do the intermittent fasting, and then you're going to suddenly stop. people call this the plateau. Why does
Mhm.
that happen? That's because your body adapted to your new lifestyle, which
Yeah.
means it's only going to get 2 meals a day. So what is it going to do? It's going to start storing instead of releasing. It's going to start thinking, oh, I'm only going to be fed 2 meals. I don't know if I'm going to be fed 3 meals anymore. So I better start storing. And then what people start noticing is they start to gain weight, right?
Mm.
So
Mhm.
it's what and this can be different for everybody, but that's been saying that from our clinic, this is what we observed from our patients.
Yeah, yeah. I think that, to be on the safe side, if you're just starting, I'd say maybe 3 or 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And yeah, but like you said, during our program, we recommend it usually on our meal plan, like on a 10-day plan, we might recommend it 4 times or 5 times. So just we want people to try it. So we have a few minutes left, and I just want to jump into total fasting, right? Which is incredibly powerful. And there's so much research on this. For someone who's never done it before, sometimes it freaks them out because well, how am I going to feel? And, and again, as a diabetic, if you're on insulin, you cannot do this. So don't try this. But if you're not insulin dependent, then this can be very powerful. But for someone who's wanting to try it, but it's their first time, usually what I recommend people do either a bone broth fast, or they do fresh vegetable juice, not fruit, vegetable, and do a juice fast. And so bone broth is very satisfying. It's satiating. And so I suggest people to start would do, they'd have lunch and then they skip dinner, right? And they're going to be sleeping a lot of that time. They don't eat breakfast, and then they break their fast at noon the next day with something very light, maybe some soup, maybe some steamed vegetables. And they can go a lot longer because they're sleeping and they aren't thinking about it, right? Versus just waking up in the morning saying, I'm not going to eat all day long today until tomorrow morning. It's a lot harder. So if you're brand new to fasting, try doing that. You have lunch and then dinner. If you're new to fasting, maybe you want to just do some bone broth, right? And you can get up in the morning if you want to do fresh vegetable juice, or just try water until noon. And then do something very light, because your digestive system has completely shut down at that point, and your body's doing that autophagy. It's busy out doing all this cleanup and everything. So we don't want to just put in something really heavy to eat when we break a fast. But that's a great way to do it. And during our 28-day program that we run, we do the intermittent fasting, and we help you walk through a day of fasting. We have a private Facebook group so you can ask questions and we can, cheer you on. And some people do it and they're so excited. They'll let us know, like, I did it. I feel so good. So that's a really fun thing to watch people try their first full fast. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that we have a lot of questions about this, and we can, time is out.
Yep.
But we're here. Hey, don't worry. We're here. We're here every week on Thursdays, right? And so we can answer those questions next time. Well, let's
Yep.
continue the intermittent fasting conversation,
Yeah.
because it's a long conversation. We're not going to finish it in 30 minutes, an hour. It's going to maybe take a few hours to depending on people's questions. But if you have, immediate questions that you want to ask, we will be launching a 28-day metabolic reset program in a couple of weeks. And that's where we help guide you for the next 28 days on how to eat, how to implement your intermittent fasting. And if you have, here's the thing, we've improved the program. I know some of y'all have been on the program. We've actually increased the resources. So we created a private Facebook group. So now every time when you join one of our programs, you'll be able to enter our private Facebook group, and you'll be able to ask questions and to get more clarification on how to implement the program. Chris and I will be in there to help guide you, because that's what we're here for. We're here to help guide you, right? Because we know it's a confusing world. So much data, so much information. We're getting overloaded with information. It's like, what do you do then? Because information will tell you do this, and then tell you to, oh, no, you can't do that. That's wrong. That's wrong. You got to do this. And then you got research to say, no, that's wrong. Like, so
Yeah.
what is it, right? And
Yeah.
so that's why Chris and I, we created the Facebook group to help clear up some of those confusions. All right.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
be on the lookout. We'll start announcing it next week in regards to our 28 metabolic program. So we're excited about it. And Chris, any last words before we log off?
No, I just love what you just said, though, is it can be so confusing out there. And I get this from my clients too. People will come in literally with garbage bag, grocery bags of grocery bags of supplements, right? And I'll say, well, why are you taking that one? I read that in Red Book. Why are you taking that one? Well, my neighbor said it was good to take. I mean, it is so overwhelming right now. And the diets, right? The diet ideologies are just rampant. Like everybody should be vegan, everybody should be carnivore. And so
Yeah.
you and I are basing everything that we teach on, like you said, the foundation of the human body, biologically the human body. We all have hearts, we all have liver, we all have kidney, we all have digestive system. What in the world does this body want, right? And that's what we teach, and that's why we love to help clear up a lot of the confusion by just saying, okay, let's just step back, let's lay a foundation, let's start from square one and not be overwhelmed with all the information.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, guys. Thank you for joining our podcast. Again, same time, same bat channel. We will see you next week. All right, guys.
Yes,
Have a
have a great
great
week.
week.
Bye for now.